Honored to be joined by a guy whose show I go on quite frequently, Ramon Foster of Ramon, Kayla, and Will on 104.5 The Zone in Nashville. But more importantly, former Vol for life.
Vol for life.
Ramon Foster. Ramon, this is a wild time. Like, I had a video recently. We caused a little stir in the Volunteer State because I said Tennessee is one of those teams that can make a jump in 2024.
Yeah.
And really, like, a 2-win jump for Tennessee would put Tennessee in the playoff, if you think about that.
That's 100% facts. I mean, if you look at the way the 12-game setup is going to be, it should, especially you look at conference strength of schedule and depending on the loss. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And the thing is, no Nick Saban anymore. Alabama comes to Knoxville. Like, okay, going to Athens, you can write that one off.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going to happen. But I am just curious, what is it like as someone who is talking Vols pretty much every day? Now, you've been dealing with the Titans coaching change, so I understand you've been busy with that. But when Nico got in that bowl game and showed what he could do, how much did the excitement level change? A
ton, because almost at any level, high school, college, NFL especially, the quarterback matters. And I think when you see a guy that has promise after hearing the hype, because recruiting is one thing, but actually seeing in the game is another. I've gone to school with numerous guys that were 4 or 5 stars, right? They'll use like, that's a 4 or 5 star, and they don't turn into it. So when you actually see it and the stories behind it is backed up because of the tape, that's when the optimism, hope takes you a very long way, man. And that's not just at Tennessee. That's almost any school. You look at the way coaches jump into the portal to find that next guy because that next guy might give them hope. So watching what Nico has done in that game against that defense, that's the other side of it too, with the majority of their starters in it. That gives you a lot of optimism for the upcoming season.
So we're here at the Senior Bowl. We're going to see Joe Milton against, some of the best players in college football. Mm-hmm. But that seems to be the thing. Like, can Nico be better than Joe? Because Joe was not able to be as good as Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, and that's where I think seeing him operate in that game actually gave people that insight. The one thing about Joe was this. You knew Joe could make every throw, but can he make it consistently? And it looked like Nico was capable of doing that in that bowl game. Again, I got to mention that defense because they got so much praise about how good they are and the amount of, yards they gave up. And the separator for me, and honestly, Joe and Nico so far was Nico's ability to use his legs. Mm-hmm. And then you look at him as a freshman, his size, he's long. He looked like a stick running, but of course the toughness showed up in those games, in those moments. So I think it's there. But the coolest thing is this: from Hendon to Joe to Nico, they've all had a relationship. It seems as if they've communicated and what the expectations are going to be. So I think having Nico sit and not being given to him immediately after high school can somewhat cater to his ability to be a little bit more savvy going into this year.
And you can speak to this having played there, because I try to explain to people the pressure at Tennessee, that it's very similar to Alabama, very similar to Ohio State, where it is the biggest thing in town. It is the biggest thing in the state, even though there are NFL teams and NBA teams and NHL teams, but it is the biggest thing in the state. And it does feel like when there is hope there, that it's kind of a, you better do this.
It is, but it's a good place to be because that should be the demand. When you look at that conference and how many national champions have come out of it, and you have, we can throw this in now, the collective, you have the fan base, you have the support, and you mean to tell me we are getting these players? You go from top 10 classes, 5 stars, like it is supposed to be that way, and you'd be idiotic to not be that way as a fan. So I have to tell people often, fan is short for fanatic. They're going to be crazy. And if you give them a little bit of light, it's going to take yourself to the next level. And that's what that fan base is. If you go to campus and you've been there during those games, I went to the one they beat the streak on Alabama, where Alabama won so long. Yeah. I've never been a part of a stadium. I played in the Super Bowl too, to where it rocked and people were chaotic in a good way. And that right there, of course, you mentioned Nick Saban not being a part of it. It's got to be other fan bases around. It's not just Tennessee. It's Auburn. It's Texas A&M. It's Texas coming in. It's Oklahoma. Because you feel like, okay, the system in which Alabama had in place because of Nick, and I know their coach will do his thing too, and they have a crazy support system also. But it somewhat gives you an opportunity now to jump in and say, watch us do work. And that's where Tennessee is, and Auburn, and everybody else involved.
As a guy who played in the SEC, is it surreal thinking that Oklahoma and Texas are SEC schools now.
You know what? My wife's a part of these message boards that SEC orients it, right? And it's hilarious to watch them come in because that's always been the conversation with us. You're an SEC guy. Can Texas hang in the SEC? Can Oklahoma hang in the SEC? It is somewhat surreal now, but we also get to see that up close and personal because you hear about the rich recruiting bed that they have down there. So let's see what it looked like in SEC play now.
All right. So wait. Your wife is a message boarder.
She's a group, of course, of like SEC fans.
Okay.
And apparently the Texas and Oklahoma group has just come in.
Oh,
just
okay.
Big
they
dog.
Came in hot.
Oh
okay.
my gosh. They don't really know it's not illegal for us to do horns down, do they yet?
No, you can do it. It's all you want.
I can't wait to do it. Go ahead, though.
No, it will. I am laughing about that because I don't think you can complain to the conference office about that. In the SEC, I don't think it's going to go over very well.
How doggy dog it is in the SEC.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because I think about how many guys have Gator chomped after they've beaten Florida in the swamp. Like I remember Auburn's kicker doing it.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It ain't even just football. The basketball teams do.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I've heard everything from Rocky Flop to all of it. That's what we do. So welcome, Big 12.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see it. But so I got to talk to you about your time at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Very interesting time. Your senior year was 2008. That was the last year of Coach Fulmer. Mm-hmm. And you came in with huge expectations as a team, and it didn't go the way it. What did you come away from that season learning?
I came away learning earning is a whole lot more than just giving.
Yeah.
That I was there from 04 to 08, and that was a transition into bigger recruiting sites, 4 and 5 stars emphasis. You also had Nick Saban coming into the league, you had Urban Meyer come in and win, Les Miles. All these guys came in and won early. So the need and push, the arms race to get uber amounts of talent and not develop, I think is somewhat what kind of took us over. And when you have Urban come in and win 2, and then you have Nick and then Les, I mean, look at how it's shaped up in the SEC. It kind of forced you to move quicker. And that meant like getting young guys out on the field. And I think when you look at how you build teams, you got to somewhat set the culture and earn it in college a little bit sooner. Unless you're going into the portal now, it's a little bit different. But I came away from that season saying, if you're going to win it, you got to win it the hard way. At the end of the day, the teams that play in the championships and win them, they go about it the hard way. And that was one of the storylines this year, I think, with Michigan. Yeah. Michigan had a very brutal and tough practice regimen, and it benefited them throughout the course of the season, beating SEC schools and doing what they did in the national championship. So I look at the way Heupel is built in Tennessee right now, and it seems to be that way to where guys have to go get it and prove that you belong on that field, because there's no cupcakes in college football, but especially in the SEC, and I'm biased like that.
Well, and it does seem like that the cupcake factor has gone down because you have these schools that are taking the bottom of Georgia's roster and the bottom of Alabama's roster, and those guys are becoming starters at those schools now.
They are, but of course, you got to stay in tune to what type of players you need and can they fit your system. And of course, if it works out that you can pull a guy that's a 4-star that's buried at middle linebacker, you take him. Yeah. I used to get upset about. It's like, you can't go play for Alum. You can't go play. No, that's the game. You either getting better or you getting worse. And if you're not in this arms race, man, then you got to fight back however way you can, and you better be very dynamic of a play caller.
Though you were an offensive lineman, we still have not seen tons of offensive linemen go in the portal. I have theories about that based on personality traits. And is it just that linemen are loyal? Linemen don't like change. Linemen just don't want to move.
You know what it is? Linemen don't get the big checks. Yeah, that's probably where you start. Though. They are now, and that goes a long way though too. But offensive line play is mostly development. If I like a position coach, I'm gonna probably stick with that position coach. Even if I have to sit for a year or two, I'm going to sit with that position coach because it's about development. If there's very few guys that come in and just like freshman starters, and because it's so physical, there's a jump from high school to college. I know Alabama had a true freshman star, but he was also a perennial 5-star guy from the get-go. That's rare. Not Georgia doesn't have that often. LSU doesn't have that often. These teams, Ohio State may, but like there's very few programs that can jump in. But it's also all about development, getting stronger, understanding the game. Technique matters more in the trenches.
So let's talk about the guys you played with, and specifically the guys you lived with, because you've talked about this house full of guys, and it's crazy because so you who Went to the Steelers, played in a Super Bowl, successful radio career now.
Yeah.
Jerod Mayo,
Yeah.
the new coach of the New England Patriots. Inky Johnson, who got hurt, worried, maybe,
he's bigger than all of us.
Yeah, he's one of the biggest motivational speakers in the country.
Yeah.
Like, how did you guys kind of come together?
Just same-minded, like-minded people. That's essentially what it was, man. We are all just kind of weeded out which navigation, path we were going to walk, and we kind of found each other. Now, Inky was my suite mate, my roommate right next door, and Jerod was right down the hallway, and we somehow every single time found ourselves around each other.
Yeah.
Rob was just a pest to us.
So Robert Ayers?
Yeah, Robert Ayers also. So it was myself, Jerod Mayo, Inky Johnson, Robert Ayers, who also went first round. He's now a coach at Tennessee, and Sinclair Cannon, who's a 4-star thing coming out of South Carolina at the time. And just like-minded people. I always tell people your circle matters. So we ended up rooming together and everything, and very unique relationship to this day.
Well, that's what you were telling me about Robert Ayers, like that he used to just hang around and be like, okay, I see what y'all are doing, and it seems to be going okay, so I probably should just be hanging around with you guys.
You know how it is in college. Everybody has their group initially, and then you find the ones who are on the same thing. And Rob used to literally come to our apartment on campus and sit at the top of the steps after we were done with class and just, what the heck y'all been at? Not in those words. And just wait on us, and not just wait on us. I don't want to make it seem like he was waiting around for us, but we got really super tight, and he made himself around us because everybody has stuff that happens early in their career. And when you are on the right path, doing the right thing, even if it seems corny, how people are, oh, you guys are corny. No, we got a purpose. And that purpose is getting to the next level, however that's going to look.
Now, for those who don't know, Inky Johnson was a great DB.
Yeah.
He got hurt, and it was a terrible injury. And there were, worries about him losing his arm.
We thought he was close to dying from what we understood. Yeah.
And he has become literally one of the most sought after motivational speakers in the country. Was he like that as a player, or was he like that at home?
A 2-star. Okay. That coming in as a 2-star from inside Atlanta, he tell you all the time Zone 6 East Atlanta is where he's from. Like, he's actually from that and grew up a hard way, like most football players do that come from, lower income places. And he just had this grind about him. It's authentic when you hear Inky speak, but if you talk to him, it's the exact same way too. So yes, he was like that. And one thing I'll say about our group was this: very transparent with one another, unapologetic on how we talk to one another too. And it was all truth and no fluff in between. The times where I was struggling, Inky was a guy, and I never forget he said this. We'd be frustrated because he got red-shirted too. And we go to workouts, come back together to the dorms and stuff. And he'd always say, he called me this to this day, big homie. Cream rises to the top. And I'm like, okay. And he's just say, when you look at it, all that crap settles to the bottom and the cream rises. To this day, he says that to me when we're talking about certain things. So yes, he's always been that way. It's just the tragedy helped amplify that even more.
And I still watch the video because he posts them every day. And you want to wake up, get pumped. If you just follow Inky Johnson on Twitter,
run through a wall, I promise. But here's the thing with those types of people that do motivate, you sometimes talk to them off, saying like, oh, who the heck is this? When you talk to Ink, you get that authenticity that I don't think you get from many others that do what he does.
And meanwhile, now you got Jerod Mayo, who we knew was going to be a head coach in the NFL sooner rather than later, but now he's replacing Bill Belichick. You're like, hey, no pressure.
Crazy, man. Here's the thing about Jerod. From the day that he came in, from a military family too. His family is from the DMV area, or he's from the Tidewater area of Virginia. I think DMV got switched up one day from us. So he's from the Tidewater area of Virginia. Very highly concentrated talent that comes out of the VIX. So many guys come out of that area. Jerod's had that business goal-oriented mindset from the day he got on campus. He said, I'm doing 3 years and I'm out. And he meant every bit of it. We all played a part in how we got to our point to where Rob, first round, now coaching at Tennessee. Inky does his thing. Jerod's now a head coach. I ended up playing 11 years, and Sinclair Cannon's a business owner in South Carolina. We all played a part in figuring out how we're going to get to that point. But Jerod, I would almost say, somewhat said it because his conversations were different. We go out, but we went party crazy. We do our thing, but like the main thing was always the main thing. I never saw somebody grind as hard as he did to come back from his ACL injury than he did. And he set that goal, pretty much laid it out for us. And we all looked out for each other. So I never forget when he ended up going pro, one of the first things he did was the coolest thing he did. He gave us his Nike accounts. Like, hey, y'all my guys, go, because it was more motivation.
Yeah.
And that's always been his thing, super cerebral, and is a straight truth teller.
Yeah.
And that's why he is where he is right now, I think.
What's it going to be like for you to see him lead them out next season?
Man, so the entire process was crazy. Before the news broke, of course, everything was already set for him to take over.
Yeah, it was in the contract.
He FaceTimed us the night before, and we've been hearing and we talk, and he kind of told me one thing or another, right? Told us all. When we got that FaceTime and I saw 5 faces on it, I'm like, oh my, I got the screenshot of it just to save it. And you ought to see the smiles on it, because to think one of your friends, we all got successful friends. You do too, right? Very successful.
I don't have anybody coaching the Patriots.
But to see that, it was beyond cool, because again, you saw him have that type of mindset even back then, a play caller in his sophomore year at UT. So he understands how to lead. I'll be honest with you, a portion of me is overly excited for him. The other half is like, but it's the Patriots, though.
That's the Steelers you coming out there. That's right.
But I got to root for my friend, man, because it's not common you have this type of success.
Well, I cannot wait to see it. And it has been fun. As when you took over that show, I was coming on every week, and it has been a lot of fun watching you grow into this career. But man, I will never forget, because it was, I think it was 2020.
Yeah.
You started and you said you were mad at me because I was predicting not a great season for Tennessee. I actually predicted a better one they had.
Yeah.
But you were like, no, 10 wins. I was like, what?
I did say that. I did. And I'm passionate about my Vols, like most fan bases, right? And I was understanding the fan side versus the actual side is where I'm at now. I'm a little bit more governed now. Okay.
That's
I'm
right.
like, bring it back, because you got to look at all things. And now that
you
I'm
got to deal
into
with callers now.
I do. And I got to look at what recruiting is, what other teams have done now. So I understand how you break this down, and to why your analysis of it was more accurate than mine.
Well, but then I got it wrong, and you got it right that first cycle year. So
yeah,
it all comes back around.
We talk a lot. We're gonna be wrong, right?
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Ramon Foster, thank you so much.
No problem, man. Anytime.
Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.